Buona mattina, universe. Universo? Wonder how you say universe in Italian. You'd think I might have some inclination after taking a year and a half of college Italian, but I don't. So instead of butchering some other country's national pride, I will refrain and just say the good news is Phoebe seems to be on the mend. Her volcanic barf eruptions yesterday that ended my mushroom trip. Well, I mean, what else can you say, right? I'm just glad that she doesn't seem worse today than yesterday, and if that's the case, I will literally take care of that dog till her dying breath. So, the fact that that won't be today, well, that's good news, right? Hell, that's newsworthy of a bong hit. Come on in here, Phoebe. Pause. So, a little strange side note. Something's changed in dog chow. First of all, there's a new looking piece in it. But my dog, who's eaten dog chow her entire life, will no longer eat it. I don't know what they're doing to her food, but I can only feed her cat chow now. She gobbles it down like it's ground beef. But I put a bowl of dog chow in front of her and she just ignores it. So, got a 48-pound bag of dog food I don't know what to do with. Guess that's going to the pound. Pause. And I'm pretty sure that's not what made her sick yesterday, because whatever made her sick yesterday was mostly liquid. So, I don't know if she got into some toxic something and barfed up a bunch of water, but I mean, it wasn't kibble, that's for sure. All right, so that's enough of the gross stuff, because you know what today is? It's fucking Friday. Now, okay, so I made it through Thursday. I said I'd make it through Thursday, but I made it through Thursday basically sleeping the entire day away. Other than the 7 hours I was up for from midnight to 7. Sleeping the day of Thursday away is a very fair assessment. But say I was awake for 4 more hours on Thursday besides those first 7. I'm pretty well rested here at 7:50, 7:49 in the morning on it's the 30th of December, folks. This is the 30th. We're one day away from the last day of the year, also known as Beamer's birthday. But when we get to tomorrow, I will be working. Because it's New Year's Eve, I will also be opening the next day on New Year's Day. I volunteered for these shifts because I could not care less about New Year's Eve. Hang on, pause. And anybody who could certainly deserves to have more of that day to themselves than me, because, like I said, I don't give a shit. So, I'll be working the next 2 days, which makes today my last free day of 2022. And it is today that if Friday lines up like it could, like it may still, today will be the first day that I have an intentional I guess intentional is good enough, guest join me in these recordings. And this guest is someone who, if they don't join me today, will join me soon enough, because I've wanted to move this routine beyond just me, and the occasional crazy Lily. But it had to evolve in something that was worth expanding into. Obviously, I feel like my point of view is worth it to me. So what I've done in the first year here has been essentially give you all the material you need to decide that I'm either a lunatic or a lighter version of a lunatic. But whichever way you want to go on that, you can't argue that some of the people I know aren't lunatics, because they're not. And these people that I know that I think aren't lunatics, well, I'm kind of interested in bringing them into the fold to see if I can convince them that I too am not a lunatic. Now, maybe I can't. Maybe this will all be one big exercise in proving that I am a lunatic. Or far north, like science. You know what? You don't go into science hoping for an outcome. You go into a science with a question, willing to accept the outcome. So the question is, am I a lunatic? The science part of this will be bringing other people's opinions in. I know opinion is not science. And then the actual conclusion will be drawn by the experience and exchange therein. Now, that isn't the scientific method to a T, but it's the scientific method of John when it comes to communicating with my friends. So, pause. And here's the other thing. Friends, well, friends isn't a strong word because I definitely feel like this person is a friend of mine. But she's a coworker of mine who has become my friend. And it took 9 months, really, for me to have enough non-work repartee to decide, hey, I think we could be friends. And I'm pretty picky about the people that I'll be friends with. But I am, whoa, I am not picky whatsoever about the people that I will be acquaintances with. So, the beginning of a friendship is always kind of awkward for me because it means I'm moving past acquaintanceship stage into friendship, which to me is a significant development. Because once we're friends, then I assume, A, I can tell you anything, and B, I can support you on anything. Like, I'm not saying friends is like getting married, but to me, my friends, the reason I have so few is because I demand so much when it comes to friendship that I don't have room for more than a few. I can't support more than a few. And so it takes me a long time to think, oh yeah, maybe this person's worthy of friendship. Because I know that investment means I will be there 100% in every way that a friend can possibly be there for this person. And if this person turns out to go through a needy phase, I'm not going to abandon them because, I got donuts to buy at 7-Eleven. There will be some level of drop everything for this person should it come down to it. And I've had this person in my life recently, like 2016. I remember when my dog died, she was here immediately. And no, I'm not talking about Lily. Not at all. Lily is not a friend. Lily is an arch nemesis. She could be my guardian angel, I'll give her that, but she's not a friend. But this other person was a friend. And so here I am, 6 years later, thinking about making another friend. And not sure that I have the bandwidth or the capacity in which to sustain that relationship. And if that's the case, obviously I'm not going to be anything but forthright about it. But for the first time in a long time, I'm entertaining the expansion that comes with developing a true friend. And what's funny is there's another one on the horizon too. So it seems like maybe for the first time in a while, the universe is throwing me some serious friend material because I haven't seen it for a while. So that's cool. And that's really what I've been most excited about this Friday for. This is the reason I have been anticipating Friday with such enthusiasm, is that, well, one, I might be making a friend today. And two, I really like the idea of how I've come up with a way to introduce this person into the podcast environment. I think it's exactly the right way to do it. So, yay! It's Friday! It's clap-worthy and bong-worthy. So let's pause and have a bong hit clap. Woo! Yeah, redheaded stranger hitting the spot. Okay, have I ever mentioned that I have a dolphin tattooed on my ass? I mean, I must have at some point. But since that will be pertinent if Friday goes the way I hope Friday goes, I just thought I'd mention it now. But it might not be, so you never know. I was looking through the old lists here. This is all my top 200 headlines that wouldn't surprise me. Damn, this is falling apart. What is all this shit? Okay, that's Lily's lists. That we definitely don't want to get into. And okay, so I guess everything else would be on this side of the book. Yes. Sorry to waste your time, which is exactly what I'm doing here. I can realize it. But Oh, God, there's more Lily in here. Ugh, that's not good Lily either. Okay. I think I may have finally gotten through all the notes that are in this book. You know what? Pause. This is a waste of your time. Okay, I was wrong. There was something in here. Okay. How did I move from thinking I was a blessed, free-thinking being of graceful emergence within a human body to a directly source-connected, kind, understanding, forgiving listener via the world-shattering, soul-revealing, deprogramming, Mandela-shifting epiphany of a conspiracy theorist? Well, guess who was high when he wrote that? Oh, God, sometimes I write with such stilted pomposity, it drives me crazy. But mostly only because I'm high, so I guess I better get high so I can interpret what the fuck I meant to say. Okay. Wow. Okay. Wow. Well, we'll see if some platinum huckleberry cooks what. Well, it's good enough I can't even say its name. That's part of the problem with this one. Platinum huckleberry cookies. Really? Like someone's like, yeah, we'll just, we'll get famous and it'll be called PHC. Bullshit. It's a stupid name. Okay. Not to criticize weed names because that's too easy. Pause. All right. Let's see if I can even bring this into some discussion worthy of pursuing. And I do think this is a discussion worthy of pursuing, especially because I really don't have even I don't have the narrative drilled out yet. I don't know that, how do you convert from an atheist to a believer in eternal souls? How do you do it? Well, one, you could have always been somebody who believed in eternal souls but was bluffing their atheism. And I consider that because I always thought the Force made sense. When I heard it in the Star Wars movie at the age of 8, I thought it made sense. There's a connectivity among all living things. I still think that makes sense. So, to say that I didn't have a mystic side is unfair. I wasn't just some robot trying to figure out what all these damn pesky emotions are and why it is that I feel some connection to the eternal goodness of the universe. That wasn't captured in my current thought process as soul level thought or the ethereal, but it really is. And I never had those questions answered, so they always sat there. But they didn't sit there thinking, oh, well, maybe it's God. God. That always just seemed like the dumbest concept of all. Like some creator would sit there and give a shit about me and whether or not I'm barfing into a toilet or shitting into a toilet. I mean, who gives a shit? Like, my life isn't interesting enough for somebody to want to peer down into it and pass judgment. And I never thought of my responsibility morally to an independent observer's judgment of me in a post-life checklist of whether or not I could get into heaven. That also seemed stupid as hell. Pun not intended. And hell just seemed like a way to keep men straight and narrow. Because if you don't threaten them with the ultimate punishment, then you can't get them to achieve the ultimate docility, right? Right? Do you agree, right? Love how I throw that at you. But, so, and I wasn't an unsure atheist. I was a fucking, you guys are lunatics that believe in God atheist. And it was an issue. I mean, it was a real issue. People believe in God. So I think they're dumb. They're morons, right? Because I'm an atheist. You're just not smart enough to see that God's a fallacy of mankind. But still, like, I can remember a woman in Portland. She was from Germany. She had been on Christian missions to Africa, South America, and America. And I was probably 27, 8 at the time. She was 22, 23. And easily one of the 5 smoking hottest women I ever slept with. But I slept with her because she was smoking hot. And she slept with me because she thought she could get more God in my life, which I did go to church with her one time. But I sat there in that church the whole time going, is the sex this good? No. And it just, the idea of this group think about this mystical being that has some sort of divine interest in my purpose just always felt so moronic and deluded. That's even sitting through that hour of church is probably what, well, no, I definitely had sex with her on the, we had sex in a parking lot between two parked cars, and the car that was the car on the side that the driver could get in without walking on top of us pulled out while we were fucking next to it. I don't know how we didn't get run over. Well, I do, because we scurried over. I mean, they clearly saw us when their headlights hit us with our pants down. But whatever. I'm sure that was a shock to them. Oh my God! Naked people! Sort of. But that aside, that's the only time I ever went to church in my adult life. And I only did it to get laid. So I'm not just an atheist, I'm a blasphemer. So I never expected the infinite source wisdom to come knock on my door and tell me I was wrong. Why would it? I mean, seriously, I would be a soul not worth saving if there were such a thing. And I would have always told you, there is no such thing, so for you to worry about my eternal soul is the dumbest thing for you to do with your time, other than possibly listen to a podcast called It's All My Fault. I can't think of two dumber things you can do with your day. But since you're probably doing one of those two, I can say now that I do believe in the soul. I 100% know it's true. It's been shown to me across way too many 3D space-time reality cues and dreamtime cues and personal revelation cues. I mean, personal revelation. Do you know what a mystical concept that is? For an atheist to even admit that that is possible is a bridge too far. But to have had it happen, well, what do you do with it? You can't live in a bubble of disregarding that which proves you're wrong. If you're willing to evolve spiritually, intellectually, metaphysically, just in any capacity whatsoever as existence dictates evolution of the experience possible, you got to be willing to admit you might be wrong. You're never going to move forward if everything you think now is the only thing you're willing to entertain and think. Or so went the gentle initial messages trying to convince me that maybe I had it wrong. And it was the Camel Lionesses who would come into these discussions. And the discussions would be like, you know that scene in the third, or the very first, of whatever, the fourth Star Wars, the one that Anakin ruins? If the scene where she's like, well, this is how democracy dies, or whatever the quote is, that's now Mandela anyway, so it doesn't matter. But that scene where there's a discussion among all kinds of different races or creatures, well, that's the kind of shit that the Camel Lionesses were showing up in initially. There'd be a discussion at the galactic level on planet Zendar, and I'd be attending as a witness for the paper, the journal Constitution or whatever. And in this discussion, they'd be having a bureaucratic back and forth about the rules and responsibilities of helping those in need or something. And it would almost always be a deference to these Camel Lionesses by the rest of the room, sort of like they do for the Jedi in Star Wars. Like, well, what did Obi-Wan have to say about this shit? And so there was always this thing where everybody in the room listened to them. So in my dreams, I couldn't help but think they had something important to say. And over time, they started introducing to me the concept of a much bigger consciousness. And that was the first step toward opening my mind to the idea that atheism's wrong. And from there, again, different subtle but directed nudges started occurring. And then I started having conversations with my old selves, my inner selves, my past historical selves, my other soul selves. I don't even know what they are. But I know I'm expanded beyond this consciousness in states of consciousness that I can attain. And not just drug states, but sometimes even in drug states. Not this last time on mushrooms. The last time on mushrooms was all inner dialogue. There was no feeling of external presence whatsoever. Well, except maybe Madonna. But what else is new, right? So getting to a point to welcome a different worldview has to come from yourself. You have to start believing that a different worldview might have validity. I don't know how to tell you to do that. I can't tell you how to do that. You don't. Nobody could have told me how to do it. And why it became a part of my life has been the biggest question I still have yet to even an inclination toward the answer. I'm serious when I say I'm not a soul that was worth saving. So I couldn't have been selected from among those with the potential to do well because I had no do well in my heart. But because I now saw that I'm connected to everything in a way that this is intentional, I have nothing but do well in my heart. It changed everything about the way I think about what I should be doing with my life. And created all of this outreach to my better self, my future self, and anybody else whose confusion along the way has left them as paralyzed as mine did. I'm no prophet, I'm no convert, I'm nothing but me. I've been me my whole life. And I've had some favorable rides and some bumpy rides and some goddamn disasters. But I haven't ever felt like I had a directed sense of purpose driving me from within. I was always bumping into things, hoping that they would help me feel complete, instead of completing myself and then going out and bumping into whatever the world had to throw at me. So that change in life isn't necessarily a belief in God, but it's a belief that my life matters, that it has purpose, and that doing what I need to do to fulfill life's purpose will matter to everybody else in the long run. And I guess talking to myself is not a way for this to flesh itself out. But maybe talking to some of the people I'm going to talk to in 2023 will help me come to some realization as to why all this happened. But it doesn't mask the idea that I still have to go out there and do the things that'll make my life purposeful. And that's what I've been doing. So maybe working at the Home Depot doesn't find purpose for many people in their lives, but it has for me. And it continues to reinforce itself as doing so even today. So, what do you know? It's Friday, and it's still got a chance of being Friday. So I'm looking forward to it. And even if it doesn't happen, I'm going to have one of those goddamn great burritos anyway. So today could not be a better looking day.